Y nosotros nos vamos ya con nuestro siguiente invitado. Damos la bienvenida a Ton Wijsman, Senior Investment Strategist for Alliance Bernstein Equity Services. Ton, how are you? Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be in Spain from the Netherlands. It's a sunny day here, and it's a pleasure to participate in your broadcasting.
Thank you. The pleasure is ours. Let's talk about the stock market, the uncertainty right now with the debt ceiling, with the recession, with everything that is happening right now. In general, there's a lot of uncertainty. What is your opinion about everything?
Yeah, indeed. And of course, we open the newspapers, we look at the media, we look at the charts. It's not pleasant. Specifically, 2022 was not a pleasant year for equity investors, but also for investors in bonds. Inflation, geopolitics, the energy crisis, higher interest rates, the banking crisis. Over the last 4.5 months, it hasn't been easy. And now lately, indeed, the debt ceiling in the US. And I was looking at the history of debt ceilings over the last 50 years. And I mean, there have been so many, and always they have been resolved. So I think it's a matter of politics in Washington, and hopefully the debt ceiling will be lifted. Coming back on the interest rates, I think that, or we think also that, at a certain moment, the higher interest rates are going to do their work. Inflation is getting lower, and we see that in various levels. It's still not at the 2% level, but it's coming down. Oil prices, energy prices are down, so hopefully it will work, and that in the later part of this year, the Federal Reserve will not start lowering, but at least not raising, and that will be good for the market in general.
Talking also about the market, the last results about companies this first quarter of 2023. Almost all companies have reported already their quarterly results. What we can say about these results, also in the health sector?
Yes. Now, in general, I think that the first quarter and the results were, in general, better than expected. But the expectations have been brought down. So, for most companies, it was not very difficult to do better than the results being down. The expectations being down. But in the healthcare space, in general, we saw solid results, better than expected. In April, the MSCI World Healthcare Index went up 3.5%. The MSCI World went up 1.8%. So, in general, good results. And after, of course, in 2021 and 22, the healthcare sector was also under pressure because a lot of procedures could not be done. Hospitals were filled with corona patients, and a simple operation could not be done. So that is all in all is improving quite a bit, and that was fine for the market, I would say.
Very interesting, Ton. And we are seeing also the artificial intelligence getting more and more popular within companies and also within investments. How is important also the artificial intelligence in the health sector?
It is extremely important. To give you an example, if all the data that are in computers in the world are getting together, and you have a blood sample, and with the blood sample you see a deficiency in the blood structure or in the structure of a patient, and you can compare that with all kind of other blood samples in the world and how that has been treated. You can find the best treatment for a certain disease. You can have so many data on toxicity of new drugs, of efficiency of new drugs. So the drug development will be absolutely supported by artificial intelligence. Also, let's say the data with regard to with regard to genetic identification. When you can map a gene structure and the genetic structure of a patient and the deficiencies in the genetic structure of a patient, you can also find a drug for that or a treatment for that. And you can compare all these genetic information, and that will definitely help you. There is research in Australia, in South America, in South Africa, in Japan, in US, Europe. If you have all this information together instead of in a paper database, it will definitely help the health situation and treatment of patients.
Can we get some names, specific names? Do you have a portfolio companies that are applying this artificial intelligence in healthcare?
Oh, certainly. I mean, Intuitive Surgical is the company that is making the defensive system to do robot operations, and that is using artificial intelligence to provide better insights for surgeons how to do a certain operation. You can compare an operation of a stomach or something, or a prostate cancer with treatment in the US and in Europe. You compare how it is done, and you can do it in a better way. So Intuitive Surgical is one. Illumina is the producer of genetic gene sequencing apparatus that can look at the genetic structure of a person and of a disease, and they use artificial intelligence. A company like Viva, the telehealth company, is using artificial intelligence. A company like United Health is using artificial intelligence in order to have a better connection between patients and doctors and hospitals. So there are many companies that are really at the forefront of using this, and I think we are only at the beginning at this moment.
A lot of interesting names, Ton. Thank you for that specific details. Finally, the AB International Healthcare portfolio has very strong returns over the last 5 to 10 years, so also congratulations about that. First of all, what is the main reasons for these results? And finally, how do you think this can continue in the future, this high performance?
Yeah, no, I think that this year marks the 10-year anniversary of Vinny Tapar, who is the CIO of this portfolio. The team is very strong, so it's a very strong collaborative approach. But one of the most important things, I think, is that for us, finance and business is more important than science. Of course, science you can use to develop a new drug, to develop a new artificial knee, but the science, if that does not lead to a profitable company in the future, it is useless, and hence our focus on business and not science is, I think, a very important element that leads to this very strong performance. And over the last 10 years, indeed, this has been one of the best funds in the industry. And the question is, can this continue? I think that there are general industry trends. There is demographic need. We get more older people. You get more users in emerging economies. We have spoken about artificial intelligence and about new technologies in order to make healthcare more efficient. If we can find the companies that apply these technologies in an efficient way, I think we can continue that lead going forward. And yes, there will be interesting new biotech companies. There will be interesting new companies that are developing new drugs. But for us, stay on the path of business and not science, because that at the end is, I think, a winning team and a winning strategy going forward. And last but not least, healthcare is less exposed to the macro environment. The inflation, the the higher interest rates. I mean, people get sick, needs to be treated. If people break a leg, they needs to be cured, etc., etc. So healthcare is less exposed to the macro environment, and even with the higher inflation, the healthcare sector is well positioned due to the inelastic demand, and pricing power is there, profitability is there, and there's high investment rate. So in general, we believe healthcare was an interesting sector, is an interesting sector, and will be that for the future, and our fund can participate in that.
Interesting, demographics, defensive sector also. Thank you very much, Ton Wijsman, Senior Investment Strategist for Alliance Bernstein Equity Services. It's a pleasure to have you here.
It was, again, a pleasure to participate in your show. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Despedimos a Ton Wijsman de Alliance Bernstein, que nos hablaba del sector salud, de la importancia que tiene la inversión en el sector salud. La demografía está haciendo que cada vez haya gente más mayor, por lo tanto demande más salud. También es un sector que decía Ton, no es defensivo, es muy defensivo, por lo que no está muy ligado al ciclo macroeconómico, no es sensible al ciclo. Eso hace que incluso en entornos donde la macro no acompaña, donde tienes un entorno de alta inflación, un entorno de subida de tipos, un entorno de bajada del crecimiento, aún así sea un sector que no sufra tanto. Así que muy interesante todo esto que nos comparten desde Alliance Bernstein, y también la actividad de la inteligencia artificial dentro del sector salud.